So we're not going anywhere.
Yeah. You're Jack's kid's all right.
Rise and shine on, you lovely people. Lisa here, and yes, I am still trying to recover from last night's episode of This Is Us. The episode is titled Songbird Road Part 1, and it finally introduces us to present-day Uncle Nicky, and we find out the truth about just what happened the night in Vietnam, causing Jack and Nicky to part ways. We basically in this episode go back and forth timeline-wise as we watch both Jack and the Big Three take a road trip out to Songbird Road where Nicky lives, and let's just go ahead and break it all down. So in our flashback, we have Jack receiving a bunch of postcards at the office signed from Clark Kent or CK, meaning they're from Nicky. And they're just very short messages, but essentially they keep asking Jack to please talk, give Nicky 5 minutes, hoping, Jack's well, all that kind of stuff. But Jack, he doesn't want to deal with this, and he just keeps putting the postcards in his desk drawer. He then comes home from picking up the kids one day and finds that postcard we saw Kevin have in present daytime. The one that says the last one. He then says he has to take a trip for work over the weekend, and he goes to see Nicky, who lives in this rusty trailer in the woods, which is a far cry from what young Nicky dreamed of, which we see in another flashback. Nicky wanted to be a rich doctor with 2 houses and a boat on a lake. Now when Jack knocks on Nicky's door, Jack basically says he drove all the way there to tell Nicky to basically not write him at home, and that's how serious he is about it. And then Jack's about to leave, but then takes Nicky up on his offer for some Nesquik. Nicky and Jack then talk. They start sharing old stories from their childhood and remembering the good times, but when Nicky wants to bring up what happened that night in Vietnam, Jack cuts him off and makes it clear he doesn't want to go back there. He has moved on from this part of his life, and he doesn't want to hear what Nicky has to say, even though Nicky's like, if you could just listen. Jack's like, I've put this behind me, and that's pretty much it, and he wants Nicky to stop sending him letters to the house. So before leaving, Jack does show Nicky a photo of his family, and Nicky points out the nice house and then says that he won't write Jack anymore and tells Jack to go. We then see Jack go to a convenience store, and he contemplates actually going back to see Nicky, but decides to just go home instead. And when he gets home, he tells Rebecca that he actually lied about where he was. It wasn't a work trip. He says he went to go visit someone he used to know and be close with from the war, who's having a hard time, but Jack never says that this was his brother. And Rebecca suggests, Jack maybe that he could talk to somebody about this. There's people for that. Jack quickly changes the subject and goes upstairs, but you can see Rebecca looking at him and kind of being concerned for him and noticing how affected by the situation Jack was. Now flash forward to present day, and Rebecca, Kevin, and Randall video chat with Kate to tell her all about what they found about Uncle Nicky and how they're planning to take a trip to Bradford. But Rebecca says she doesn't want to go and will stay and watch the girls while Beth has her job interviews, and Kate says she also doesn't want to go, plus she'd have to fly across the country. Now of course that changes as we see Kate show up on Randall's doorstep on the day of the road trip. And when they get to Nicky's trailer, no one answers the door. But then Uncle Nicky ends up walking up behind them, and Kevin introduces himself and says that, he's Jack Pearson's son. When Nicky asks if Jack knows that they're there, they have to inform Nicky, unfortunately, that Jack died back in 1998. Nicky then invites them in, but later asks them to leave. But Kate then puts her foot down, surprisingly, and says, they're not leaving because Kevin has done so much work to learn about her dad, and that it's all led them there. So they're gonna sit there and get their answers. So Nicky then starts to tell them about what happened in Vietnam and how he hated the war and himself. He got into drugs, obviously, and basically how Jack enlisted to try to come help Nicky and clean him up. Nicky then reveals what happened the day of that explosion we saw episodes ago. Nicky woke up to find the little Vietnamese boy we've seen before standing over him, and at first Nicky taunted the little kid with the chocolate bar. But then when the kid playfully took Nicky's glasses and put them on, Nicky actually kind of seemed to take a liking to this kid, and they had a little playful littleness going on, and Nicky actually gave the kid the chocolate bar. And then he was like, you know what, let's go fishing. Seems innocent enough, and they take a boat out on the water, and Nicky's showing this boy how he actually fishes. He doesn't fish with, a fishing pole and some fishing line. He instead fishes with a grenade. Yeah, he throws grenades in the water, it explodes, and he waits for the dead fish to float up to the top of the water. Now they seem to be having fun. It seems like there's no harm intended with this whole thing, and they move to another spot on the water to get more fish. Nicky then goes to get another grenade, but the pin is jammed on this one and just won't come out. So the little boy stands up and he tries to go grab the grenade, and it seems like he just wants to help, but Nicky, he's like, this kid shouldn't be touching a grenade. They kind of end up fighting over the grenade, and the pin gets pulled and the grenade drops to the bottom of the boat. Now, in a panic, Nicky tries to get the kid to safety, tries to get him to jump out of the boat. He tells him to get off, but the kid kind of just crawls to the end of the boat, and it looks like he's frozen there. And finally, time is up, and Nicky jumps out of the boat as it explodes. So it's kind of like, why wouldn't Nicky just try his best to grab that grenade as fast as he could and throw it out of the boat? It seemed like it was slippery. Maybe he was having a hard time, trying to pick it up, and he knew he didn't have much time. And it seemed like Nicky's concern was actually not so much getting the grenade out of the boat, but getting the kid out of the boat to save the kid, and that just ended up backfiring on him. So then Jack and his men pull Nicky out of the water, and by this time the mom of the little boy has come to the shore and has collapsed on her knees because she's figured out what happened. And Nicky, he's just in a daze. And then we see Jack asking Nicky what he's done, and Nicky, he's basically like he's frozen in fear. He's kind of in a daze, and basically Jack says that they're done. And Nicky is helicoptered out of there and discharged for psychiatric reasons. Now, this image of the mom collapsed on the shore wailing is something that Nicky tells the big three he still sees all the time, and he's afraid it's going to be the last thing he remembers when his time finally comes to an end and he dies. He then says that Jack always saw things in black and white, and Jack kind of had two lives. There was no in between. There was before the war and after the war, and that Jack chose to walk away from the first life. Now here, Nicky thinks Jack never looked back, but that's when in the flashback that I mentioned before, we saw that Jack did hesitate and almost did come back to talk to Nicky, but then chose not to. So what would have happened if Jack had decided to take maybe an extra couple of hours and actually go listen to what Nicky had said? Things might have turned out a lot differently. But Nicky then asks the big three how Jack died, and he gets filled in on that whole situation. And then Nicky's very exhausted, and he decides to call it a day and asks the big three to leave. We then see the big three leave and go to that same convenience store Jack did. So then they're placed in front of those two signs about, which direction are they going to go. Kevin then remembers what Jack told him the day that Jack actually went to go see Nicky on that road trip, and Kevin wanted to come.
Look, you gotta watch out for that, bud, because a kid can either repeat the mistakes of his old man or he corrects them.
And now Kevin's thinking all about how Nicky is living and says that he can't leave Nicky like Jack did. So the big three, they take their car back towards Bradford and go to Nicky's trailer. And it's a good thing that Nicky left the front door unlocked, because they find Nicky kind of drugged and drunk and sitting at his table with a gun on the table. Now Randall takes the gun away, and Nicky says that he never got to tell Jack it was an accident. And thus ends this heartbreaking episode. Actually, I almost forgot. In this episode, we do see Rebecca in the present talking with Miguel, wondering if she did enough with Jack, and wondering why she never questioned Jack more and asked him more about his life. And now she's ready to know the truth as well. All right, so everything though with Nicky and Jack, that whole big incident ended up being an accident. But given Nicky's history and his outspokenness against the Vietnamese people and all that, I understand why it was easy for no one to want to believe Nicky, why Jack was so quick to cast judgment, because it would have been easy for them to believe that Nicky killed that boy on purpose. But it's just heartbreaking that Jack wouldn't even give Nicky a chance to explain his side of the story. It was like Jack already made up his mind. It was the last straw. I don't know, it's a hard situation because I can see both sides about, why they acted the way they did. But it goes to show how one little accident, or in this case I guess a big accident, can change the course of people's lives. Like I said, if Jack had turned back and went to Bradford and listened to Nicky's side of the story, Jack could have chosen to not forgive Nicky still and gone on with the life that he had, and maybe, Nicky would have felt a little better knowing that he had told Jack the truth, but that never happened. So, Jack ended up being the one who could, leave it all behind and move on, and Nicky unfortunately couldn't. So now you gotta wonder if Kevin is gonna take in Nicky like how Randall took in William, and maybe Nicky's gonna come live with Kevin. I mean, we know Nicky's in pretty bad shape. It seems like he's an alcoholic. He still takes a lot of pills. Plus he's got health problems like diabetes. So he's in pretty bad shape. But I'm curious to see just, how this will progress, what his relationship will be like with the big three. I think that could be an interesting dynamic. Will they find, a way to have a piece of their dad back? Or will they learn things about their dad that, Jack never wanted them to find out that they're not gonna like? There's a lot of things they could go with here. For now, though, let's go ahead and watch the promo for the next episode.
Rescuing a lost soul.
I used to be a person. I wish I could be that person again.
We gotta do something. He's family, we're gonna help him.
Will reveal long-lost memories.
As a parent, you hope that the good stuff sticks. That's what Dad did for us.
And secrets from the past.
I think it's time you and I talked.
Okay, like how many more secrets do we have on this show? I feel like every episode they're teasing secrets, and plus we have to wait a whole another week because the show's taking a week off. They're like, the show comes back February 5th, so all these little breaks, it's kind of like, just give us all the episodes at once. That's the one thing about binging that's good, is that I don't have to sit here and wait weeks in between, but then again, you finish the show so fast, you have to wait even longer for the next season. But I'm curious, like, what else is Jack hiding? And while he hid these things and thought he was doing it with the best intentions, what was the cost of that? And does Rebecca actually know more about Nicky than she's let on? She knew more about William than she let on, so I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. But this episode, I think it had great performances all around. I gotta say, I've always been, like I've said, a fan of Michael Angarano, but I love his performance in this episode. I think Griffin Dunn did a great job. I'm excited to see what he does with this role of present-day Nicky. I know there's a lot of fans who are confused and upset and maybe wondering why Michael Angarano is not playing the older version of Nicky. I don't know if it's been addressed. There's a lot of interviews out there. I haven't really read any of them, so I don't know if the producers have said why they chose to have, you know, this character be one of the only ones that doesn't, or the only one I think, that doesn't have the actor play all stages of them except for obviously the little kid, and not do the old person makeup. Like maybe Michael just didn't look right in the old people makeup, or maybe they wanted to show that basically Nicky has become a completely different person. If you think about it, like this whole situation affected him that so much that even physically and all of that, he's become different. Granted, Michael and Griffin do kind of look alike. I think they were in a movie and they played father and son together in Snow Angels. I had that DVD somewhere, so it's nice to see them in the same show. But maybe, I think that's maybe kind of my reasoning why they would do that. To show that the whole thing weighed so much on Nicky, that he's changed so much, that they kind of wanted a different actor to show that. But I think it's kind of, these guys are playing the role so well that I like what they're both doing. I think they maybe should both be nominated for an Emmy for guest appearance next time around. But what do you think about this whole situation with, you know, Michael not playing older version of Nicky? Would you have liked to see that? Are you okay with that? Yeah, that's pretty much all I got this time around. So it's time to hit the comments down below, and you can leave me those thoughts on that situation. You can also let me know what kind of secrets you think will be dug up on this show moving forward. It seems like there are a lot of secrets. And are you excited for the Beth-centric episode that's coming up? Because I actually am. I love Beth. We got a little bit of her in this episode. She's, you know, doing some job interviews, so hopefully she finds a job, and maybe that new job is going to tie in with this flashback. We obviously know she has a history with dance, so could that be it? Maybe she'll go a different direction with her job. I don't know. And let me know all your thoughts on all of that and whatever down in the comments below. After that, you can click right over here for more videos and subscribe so you don't miss any recaps, interviews, any random things I decide to do on this channel. As always, my name's Lisa, and I guess for This Is Us, I'll see you back here February 5th, February 6th. Yeah, all right, I'm out of here. Bye, guys.